If they shore up that O-line, guys, where would you rank Joe Shiesty among fantasy quarterbacks heading into next season, Geoff?
So I think top 10 for sure. I don't think that you can put him necessarily in the top 5. I just think that's impossible. And look, there's a big line between real life and fantasy.
Yes.
I mean, Joe Burrow is probably, to me, like a lot better than a lot of the fantasy quarterbacks I have ranked in front of him. He's yards per attempt. He's great. He's shown better awareness. He's also going to be one more year removed from that knee injury. So don't be shocked if his rushing totals go up a little bit next year. But I think like 7th or 8th is completely fine for Joe Burrow. You can't put guys like Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, even a Justin Herbert behind Joe Burrow. Those guys are a little bit more dynamic with their rushing game. Herbert, to me, is involved in an offense where, they're just playing at a faster tempo. One thing we've seen from Zach Taylor, he's not afraid to go a little bit slower pace and dial down the number of pass attempts. So the Bengals will stick with the run. I don't think their offensive philosophy is going to change too much next year. Maybe they'll open it up more with more targets for Chase. That would make Burrow more interesting and maybe push him up the ranks a bit. But I think that, you've got to maintain a little bit of sensibility with Joe Burrow. Don't just go after him in fantasy because of the Super Bowl. You can like him, you can buy his jersey, whatever, but don't overpay for him because there's just too many quarterbacks that are probably going to be at better values who have a little bit more fantasy potential.
Yeah, Pearce, talking just fantasy here, like what do you see out of Joe Burrow in 2022 season?
He's definitely a top 5 talent, but fantasy-wise, he's barely top 10. You may even bump him back to top 15. It really has nothing to do with what he can do. It's what he's allowed to do. And the scheme in Cincinnati, and the scheme typically in these AFC North teams, is to play defense and run the ball. And when they get off that script, bad things happen. We saw what happened to the Ravens when they were forced to pass more. They lost their running backs. The season was a disaster. We've seen what's happened to Pittsburgh when they make Roethlisberger pass 50 times a game. It doesn't work out very well, and we know that Taylor and Cincinnati prefer to run the ball. They want to establish the run, play decent defense, and then allow Burrow to pass when he needs to. If you're having trouble protecting him, then guess what? You probably don't want him dropping back 50 times. You want to protect him. So fewer pass attempts limits his opportunities. Yeah, he had some big monster games this year, throwing for over 400 yards, but that was also against a Ravens secondary that had a bunch of issues, against a Kansas City team that just didn't show up on a specific day. He'll have those monster games from week to week, but if we're looking at the end of the season, he's not going to have the most passing yards. He's not going to throw for the most touchdowns. He may have the most wins, but fantasy-wise, it's going to be a specific week-by-week basis for him.